All right, here we go. PBR Monday. Hello, everybody. I'm going to make this one kind of a short one tonight. I had to drive all the way up to Priest Lake and back yesterday. It's like a 20-hour drive, and it absolutely kicked my butt. So I just want to get some sleep. But I do have a few announcements. I did a daily brief today, and I talked a little bit about the weather, which is hot and is going to be hot for a while. Talked a little bit about the teams on the route, so you can see all that. One thing that I forgot to mention in the daily brief, and I didn't really forget, I just didn't mention it because it wasn't going to be the problem that I thought it was when I first brought it up, is the Muldoon fire. There was a fire that cropped up in Copper Basin a couple days ago that for a while I thought might have the potential to be a problem, but I don't think it is. So where we're at right now is there are still miraculously no fires burning along the tour route that are going to impede anybody's progress. Now, that can change at a moment's notice. This is the West. It's tinder dry. There's going to be some super high temperatures for the next few days. And in a way, we're kind of lucky that this high-pressure ridge is blocking that monsoonal flow from coming up from the south, because a lot of the thunderstorms that get triggered by the monsoon are dry thunderstorms. So you don't get enough moisture out of them to do anything to prevent or put out a fire, but you get a lot of lightning bolts. So it's the worst possible scenario. So Muldoon fire is not going to be an issue. Again, you can refer to the daily brief for team updates and stuff like that. But before I get too far into this, again, we're going to go short tonight. I got to do something today that's my favorite thing to do. I look forward to it all year long. Outside of some family things that have to do with my wife and kids, it's my favorite thing all year long, and that's that I got to enter the first two finisher numbers for the Tour of Idaho 2020, and the numbers are 70 and 71. Now, I want you all to think about that. I've been doing this for 15 years, and this year is a little busier than last year, but the last 4, 5, 6 years since Jimmy came out with this movie, typically there's somewhere between 50 and 75 people that declare their intent to go. And there's 3 or 4 times that number of people that do a T2, that I have minimal communication with. So this year we had, I think, 65 riders at one point that were committed to doing a tour of Idaho. And I'd be willing to bet more than I can afford to lose that less than 10 will finish this year. In fact, my magic number is 8. I think we'll have 8 finishers this year. And by the way, before anybody gets way upset, that doesn't mean that you in particular, I don't think will make it. I'm just looking at the statistics over the years and saying this is about the way it pans out. Every year there are really talented teams that have a little bit of bad luck, and I'll point to Armadillo, first team through. Had a little bit of bad luck. A team that's returning this year, Team Hillbilly, a few years ago. Hard to imagine 2 stronger guys than on Team Hillbilly. And they had bad luck. It's not bad planning sometimes. It's just that you can't anticipate everything. And sometimes that one thing that you didn't anticipate, or you said, well, this is highly unlikely to happen, so I can't game plan for every eventuality. So maybe I'll just deal with this if it ever happens. It happens. And then all of a sudden you're knackered. But anyway, I want to bring some guests in tonight. Let me see if I can get both these guys up. Here we go. So we got everybody. So I have here Team Idaho. Michael Knight, number 70. Brett Carlson, number 71. Congratulations. I'm going to shut up and let you guys talk for as long as you want. Tell everybody what's up.
Are you tired of us yet?
No way.
All right, Mike, give us a ride report.
Oh, you want me to start? All right. Well, I think that's another thing. I think I did lose a little sleep by trying to stay up and share some ride reports, but honestly, that's part of the enjoyment for me. I like sharing in the experience. I like sharing. So I've really got another big project in motion. I've got good video literally of every day, not the entire day, but every trail junction, every trail, every challenge section, every bonus section, every
Brent tip over,
every dunk in the water, every bike that went off Custer Lookout, it's all coming. So everybody just be patient. But that's kind of a little side thing that I like to do. But again, awesome experience. We had some great, to Martin's point, we were very, I feel like we were very prepared, but we had some good fortune. Let's be honest that, the weather played in our favor. We had a couple of raindrops that we had to wipe our goggle once, and that was literally it. We stood on top of some of those, lookout points and had crystal clear vision 360 degrees. And I know what it's like during fire season to be up on top of some of those mountains and, not be able to see, hardly off the top of the mountain. So we were very fortunate. We recognized that, but we had a great time. We were unfortunately, we lost a team member, Charles Rhodes, which we sure wish we could have experienced the entire tour with him. So, but we had a great time riding with Charles up through day 4.5. And then Brent and I we just charged on. So I'm not quite sure what everybody wants to know or hear. I mean, I have all sorts of thoughts. I know Brent does. We talked about it driving home Sunday, about what we thought we would do differently, lessons learned. So let me just highlight a couple, Brent, and then maybe you can jump in and share a few things. So I'm going to sound like Martin when I say this, but one of the things that I think we knew because it had been preached, but it was just reinforced, reiterated, validated, which was early starts. And I'm not saying we were the poster boys for that, because we had one morning where we paid the price from a very late night before. But on average, we were always on the trail between 5 and 6, tried to err on the side of closer to 5 o'clock every single morning. And absolutely critical, because no matter the mileage for the day, it is really, don't underestimate the day, the adventure, the challenge of even day 5, getting to Salmon. Coincidentally was our day that we had a little bit of leeway because we had a late start. But don't underestimate the mileage, get an early start. We had also ridden our bikes quite a bit, fully loaded, simulating tour-like in situations. And I felt like that was critical, because you spend 30 minutes on the side of the trail dinking with your luggage or your setup or something like that, and that can burn a lot of time. One other quick comment, and then I'll let Brent speak, which was, I knew that I would enjoy meeting people along the tour, and Martin has talked a lot about how this is more than just a motorcycle ride, but that was one of the coolest parts of the entire tour, were some of the people that we met. Random people, completely random people. We were in Elk City, and some lady rolls up on a 4-wheeler, kind of a local, an older lady wearing a Mountain Dew t-shirt, riding a 4-wheeler, not shy at all. Comes over, and Brent had everybody signing his fender throughout the tour, and she was chatting us up and talking, and we just had a good little conversation, and it was just fun. And she jumped on her 4-wheeler and ripped off down the street 100 miles an hour, and we laughed about it. So simple little things like that. So we certainly learned a few other things, but Brent, maybe you can speak to some of the things that you learned or that you enjoyed or appreciated.
Well, I think a lot of it is we do have to be prepared before you go in and know your stuff. We had a couple of times, day 8 was all it was described to be. And especially being the first team out, we got stuck in the bottom of, I think the start is at Peter King Trail.
Pete
King Trail, going up through there, and ferns up to your handlebars. You can't see underneath you. You hear water running underneath you, and we at some point we stopped. You had to look at the topo map and go, okay, there's the mountain here, a trail probably goes like this, and then we get off and we'd walk it because you had no visibility. And so we were just like, I was pretty nervous, just forging up this side hill. You're on a side hill, but you can't see your visibility. You got dew in the air, and your goggles, you're getting wet, and it was pretty wild. So there's just always the adventure part of it, there's got to be a trip. And then a couple big memorable ones coming out of Elk City and hitting the meadow with big tall grass and down trees in it, and there'd been nobody through it. Those were major memorable moments for me, of just like walking through there, and then you see a big trench and you get stuck on a log, and but just keep your cool. It can be really easy to get frustrated but you just have to laugh about it. And that's what Mike and I would just laugh about it. Like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the day. I got 3 gallons of gas strapped on the back of my bike. I'm out here log hopping in grass, and I don't know what's on the other side of it. So it was a hoot. A lot of fun.
That was one thing, if I may, Martin, really quick compliment Brent on. He was the one multiple times that would get off his bike, who heeded your advice, and we would walk. We would just kind of get a different perspective off the bike, and every single time we were able to figure it out because of that, to figure out where we needed to go and just kind of reassess. And that was, I don't know that that'll be as critical for teams coming, because there'll be some tracks in certain areas, but we definitely have to do that.
I don't know if Mike saw it, but I would go by a big dead tree, and I'd grab like 5 or 6 big dead branches. And as I'd figure out where I wanted to go, I'd just stick them in the ground as little guideposts. Go this way.
I'm going to have you guys on this winter. We're going to do something this winter called PBR Monday Hot Stove League. And I'll have you guys on for a full hour after you've had your videos and stuff done, so we can make it a really nice presentation. You can show your videos, and you guys will have some time to think about it. But I'm booking. You're not getting out of it either, because I know where you both live.
All right.
From social media. And one other thing, I cannot say enough good things about what you guys did, but maybe this will resonate with you. You have absolutely bailed the racing community out in my eyes with your effort this year. So I think you know what that means.
I do. I know exactly what you mean. And for the record, I am a avid trail rider who occasionally races. That's the way I look at it. So my roots are trail riding, that's for sure.
Good for you. But you guys, don't forget now. I make you give me your social media info for a reason. I stalk you guys on social media, figure out what's up. And you got some deep roots in that community. But you guys showed up, and you let that race stuff go, and you embrace the outdoor part of it, and you just really put the boots to it. So congratulations, guys. I'm going to let you go. Be aware of the fact that you owe me a PBR Monday sometime over the winter, okay?
Absolutely. Happy to
All right. Take care, fellas. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. So don't want to go too long tonight. Again, I feel like I've been beat by a bag of hammers, and I'm in such poor shape that I did it to myself just by driving up to Priest River and back yesterday. I did have a chance to visit with Donna. Had breakfast with her yesterday morning. And one thing I want to pass along, most of you know this intellectually, but it cannot be reinforced enough, the good impression that most of you make on these people along the way, and not all of whom would normally embrace the sport of off-road motorcycling. Some of the folks that run these little places along the way, not all of them, but some of them are, I don't know a better way to put it, they're tree huggers. That's our kind of vibe, is not their vibe. And when you all show up, as virtually everybody does, and you're just as nice as heck to these folks, you're well-mannered, the please and thank you. All of these people along the way tell me that the real Tour of Idaho people, and believe me, they know the difference. I mean, there's a lot of people that show up that are doing a T2, and there's some pretty cool stories from even just this year where people walk into a place along the way and go, yeah, we're doing the Tour of Idaho. And one of our innkeepers says, oh, yeah, well, I don't see your name on this calendar. So they're into it. They keep up with it. And you all are wonderful ambassadors for our sport, which is something that's extremely important to me. All of you know that a lot of people that ride are not good ambassadors for our sport. A lot of people, when they go out and ride on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon on multi-use trails, are basically doing everything that they can to not only load the bullets in the gun for the environmentalists, but hand them the gun and make sure that it's aimed squarely at our foreheads. You all don't do that. You do exactly the opposite. You make a really good impression on these people all along the way. I hear stories about you all encountering pack teams and stuff on the trails, and you drug your bike off the trail so the horses would go by. You talk to people. I've heard of Tour of Idaho riders offering mountain bikers a Kate's bar or something like that. That's great stuff. That's just what we need. And so Donna, once again, was just, as she always is, very laudatory about the community and wanted me to thank all of you tonight, which I'm doing right now. And Donna, thank you. We appreciate you as well, just like we appreciate Caitlin and the girls up at North Fork and all the places along the tour. So just a shorty tonight. We've got 2 teams starting out tomorrow. I'm sorry when I did the brief a little bit earlier. I thought they might have been Wednesday, but there are 2 teams starting out tomorrow, and there may be another one Wednesday. I know that Team Hillbilly's in town, and I'm going to get together with those guys a little bit tomorrow and talk to them. They're friends of mine. You know, they're from Kentucky, which is where I'm from, and we know a lot of people in the same circles. So I'm really looking forward to seeing those 2 fellas. And I don't really have anything other than what I already gave you in the trail brief today. So what I want to do in the next 10, maybe 15 minutes or so is just review what's happened so far in the tour this year. So again, in the beginning, we had 30 plus teams, and we had something like 65 individuals, I think, at one point that had declared their intent to do the tour of Idaho. It was a lot. And there were more than that were telling me, yeah, we're definitely putting together a team and coming this year. But, you know, life happens. The COVID thing happened, and that knocked a lot of people out right away. So, but I think I counted up at one point on the forum, and I think I got 63, 65 or something like that is the official number. Most of those people don't make it to the end. Most of those people don't make it to the end of day one. All of you are watching this, and you're clearly seeing the same thing that I and everybody else that's watching sees. 1, day 1 is for real, and you've got to get through day 1 in order to proceed along the rest of the trail. But let me just put a question out there for everybody, and someone answer it. You know, I see there's a bunch of people watching, so I'm going to put this question out there, and I would like for one of you to answer this for me. Is day 1, if you complete day 1, you get to the flagpole before midnight, based on what you've seen so far this year, is that necessarily a guarantee that you're going to finish the tour? What do you think? Somebody tell me. Clearly, there's an answer to it if you've been paying attention. So maybe the better question is, what could you learn about day 1 that would inform you about your chances of proceeding deeper into the tour? Okay, David Powell says no, and that's the exact right answer. Look at the data this year. There's a whole bunch of people and teams that have finished day 1, but how many people have finished the whole tour so far? 2, and way more than half of those people got through day 1. So what maybe is the good lesson of day 1? The good lesson, and once again, I sound like a broken record, but you can't say this often enough. If you can ride day 1, a lot of people pre-run day 1, and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, I encourage it. But let's say that you came out and you did day 1 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I mean, you just kept pre-riding every bit of it. You got it wired to the teeth. Or for that matter, any trail along the tour. I know there's some people that spend a lot of time riding the stuff up around Smoky Bar Store. I know there's some people that spend a lot of time pre-riding the stuff a little bit farther north. You can't pre-ride the whole thing. That's a little bit difficult. I guess, in theory you could, but in practice that's tough, especially since the route changes every year and you don't know what the route's going to be early enough that you can get it in the fall. You have to wait till summer comes around. Then there's a fairly narrow window, just a couple of months maximum. So maybe can you ride D1 10 times and make adjustments? I love this. If you ride day 1, you start out, 3 in the morning on a hot day, 4 in the morning on a day when it's not hot. You're able to ride the whole thing. You get to Lava Hot Springs in McCammon at a reasonable hour, middle of the afternoon sometime, 3, maybe 4 o'clock. You then you blast up. By the way, there is fuel at McCammon. So if you intend to just blow through Lava Hot Springs, you can also get fuel in McCammon. I don't know if I made that clear enough, but if you study it on Google Earth, you can see the gas station there. It's right next to Chip's place. So then probably day 1 is really telling you, yeah, you're built for this. You can go on and succeed on the tour. But what if you got started at 1 in the morning and you make the flagpole by 11 o'clock? That's trying to tell you something. Or if you have to pre-ride day 1 a dozen times before you feel good enough about the tour that you're ready to launch off and do the rest of it. There's a lesson in that too. If it took you 20 hours or more to do day one, I don't care if you got to the flagpole before midnight or not. You know what? There's some days on the tour that are equally long, much deeper into the tour, where all of a sudden there's not a road. All of day one, you could see I-15 off in the distance. And even though it may not seem like it, in 20 or 30 minutes at the most, you can be at a major United States highway, federal highway. That's not true on day 8. You know, Brent and Dave just talked to you about, or Michael, excuse me, just talked to you about what happens when you're on day 8. You know, you're way deep in the woods. You rode a dirt road 40 miles into the woods to get started. Those trails are incredibly remote. Some of the stuff between Chalice and Salmon's the same way. Very, very remote. Something happens, you're probably going to have to hit the tap out button because it's going to be really difficult to get you out of some of those places. Day one is the crucible that's designed to give you good information. Now, whether or not you're listening, that's up to you. But it's pretty clear to me that some people get day one, they get through it without an overabundance of expenditure of energy. And, you know, they get in a reasonable time to go, yeah, you know, if it doesn't get worse than this, I think I can do another 10 days or another 9 days of this. But it's kind of a fool's dilemma. If you just keep pre-riding it till you got it wired, and then basically you squeeze in here, you know, an hour before midnight, you didn't get the right information out of day one. What are some other things? I mean, Michael and Brent just addressed this. Getting an early start. You got to get early starts. At least people don't argue about that anymore. Generally, when they don't get early starts, it's because life intervened in some unfortunate way. But even last year, the first guy out last year was a soloist, and he showed up at the start at like 7 in the morning and then thought he was just going to jam all the way to Pocatello. And he had 2 pretty bad crashes, tore up his GPS units and his phones and stuff like that. We saw a team do that early in the year too, you know, kind of got a late start. And they just started jamming towards the end of the day. People look and they go, well, it's only 220 miles. Yeah, I can ride 220 miles in a day. Most people don't ride as much single track as you're going to see on day 1 and day 8 in an entire season. There's trail this wide that goes on for dozens and dozens and dozens of miles. Day 9 is no slouch either. There's a lot of transfer section on day 9, but there's some long single tracks on that too. So getting an early start, that's another thing that it seems to be highly correlated with success of the tour. Early starts generally beget early arrivals, and early arrivals beget more early starts. Again, you just heard Mike talk about, you know, they had a challenge on day 5, which is normally considered a semi-rest day, because they got into Chalice so late the night before that it was hard for them to get going early in the morning. Now, the teams that are out on the route now, you know, they all came here and they talked to me about their ride plan. And by the way, when you come here and you talk to me about your ride plan and you go, what do you think about this? I go, that's great. I'm really good at this. That's great. And I'm going to tell you that's great whether I think it is or not. You know, if you see me shuffling around in my seat and looking uncomfortable, it might mean that I think it's not great. But unless you're about to do something that, you know, is a clear violation of the rules, that's kind of up to you to do that. But I'm seeing people studying what the teams ahead of them are doing. So you saw Idaho and you saw Glitter Gulch too, you know, try to pick off some of that low-hanging fruit on day 4 going into Chalice. And then I noticed that the White Claw boys figured out that maybe you don't want to go for that cotton candy. Maybe what you actually want to do is see if you could poach some of the stuff on day 5, which is a shorter day that might actually make it easier. They did the day 5 challenge section day. I happen to know they're planning on doing Sherman Creek. So they did that day 5 CS, I think. I'm not sure about this, but my guess is they did that to put a point in their back pocket. Another thing is that people underestimate the North Fork to North Fork part of day 6. It's longer than you think it's going to be. It's way longer than it looks like on that map. I think it's 150, 170 miles or something like that. And most of it is trail this wide. It just goes forever. You'll be tired of single track after that day. So again, those are all things that seem to be highly correlated with tour success that are easy because you can see those from following people in their PLBs. But let me tell you something else I've noticed this year that's highly correlated with tour success that is nothing but a good trend. People are not carrying a lot of stuff. People have embraced this let's go super light idea that I push really hard. And I've actually had people tell me in the past, once again, there's no way that your rig is as light as you say that it is. There's just no way. Nobody would do this stuff carrying as little as you talk about. You got to have this, this, and this, or you're crazy. I ain't crazy. I carry hardly anything. I buy underwear along the way. I take some climb shells, and I'm pretty judicious about the climb clothes that I wear, not just the model of the outfit, but the year it was made, because the years are all a little bit different. And I've got like a Tour of Idaho suit picked out. It's the right color, right set of features, and it doesn't get ridden for anything except tour. You start really paring down your rig and just basically binning everything that doesn't make the bike move forward. You're going to be in a lot better shape. And the way people are packing this year is insanely intelligent. I used to see people come in with stuff piled up 1.5 feet off their rear fender. What's wrong with that? You are never, ever going to be able to get on and off that bike 30 or 40 times going across the desert when you got that much stuff piled up in your rear fender. You have to do some insanely high leg kick, and it'll just wear you out after a while. I'm seeing people that have thought about all of that stuff this year. They've really got it dialed. So you don't see that in the PLB traces, but I see it as they come through here. I'm seeing these real minimalistic rigs. And I would say before this year, I've maybe seen that once or twice before. The guy I really remember was Bruce Baker from up in Canada. Bruce showed up, and he had GL bags, and that was it. No backpack. He had a hydration pack, but nothing else. Just anything that couldn't fit in those 2 GL bags, he didn't take. He was a soloist. He had a couple of big, impressive saws tied to his handlebars, and that guy probably sawed 10,000 trees because there was a windstorm that came through and blew his stuff down in front of him. He did that, but then there was another gap where there were all people, and many of you who are watching tonight who are tour vets will remember this. You came to my house, and you all said some version of, so what do you think? And I would answer, I think you're carrying too much stuff. Let's bin some of this. Steel Horses did that. They showed up at my place, and they had an Airbnb that they got. But they ditched a bunch of stuff off their bikes in Pocatello, and they're going to stop by on the way back and pick it up. So again, early starts, go light. All of that stuff is important. Also, everybody has told you that's finished so far this year about the months they spent in planning, how they really went through things. And you just heard Brent talk about how he looked at aerial photos of Scurvy Saddle. Those Google photos are really good. You can get way down. You can get into a lot of detail with those things if you have any kind of a big monitor. And he understood that the line on the map was not correct, that the trail actually went in a different direction. And, we discussed that. I got lost there once after having ridden in, trying to ride out 3 or 4 hours later. I got lost. I had to get off my bike, walk around some of these little clearings, poke through the ferns and see where the trail went. If you've done your prep in advance like those guys did, you may not have to do that for too long. But if you haven't done any prep, if you're just trying to follow, trying to go from one waypoint to the other, or worse, you created your own track. Creating your own track is the mother of all bad ideas because it'll just lead you right off a cliff somewhere. Because I think as Idaho, and as I'm sure that Glitter Gulch too is figuring out, in many places, if you've got like the IDPR layer or something loaded up on your GPS, which you can do, you can download all that stuff, you're going to go wrong because the lines on the map are frequently wrong in a lot of places. All right, let me see. There's some good comments here. Yeah, absolutely not to the day one. Pacing yourself. Let's put this one up. Incredibly important. Throttle discipline. You cannot survive 10 days on the Tour of Idaho at a race pace, and I don't care who you are. And I've had too many people who were pro-level riders tell me that, man, by the time they got to Sundance Mountain, they were completely gassed. You got to slow down. And even if you can make it, let's say that you're one of these genetic freaks and somehow you just have the ability to store so much energy that you can do what you got to do to ride at a race pace for 10 days. Who out there thinks you'd get a bike through the tour at race pace for 10 days? even if you're riding at a trail pace, you're just absolutely going to pound the heck out of a motorcycle. So pacing is important. And then let's see. Nothing is a sure thing, man. The future is not written. Or I think, what was it? The future is unwritten. That was the title of the really good Joe Strummer biography a few years ago. You know, you can do all the right things and you could still get hosed. Hillbilly a few years ago, all the right things and still got hosed. Armadillo this year, almost all the right things, still got hosed. That happens every year. There are brilliant teams that show up every year and things just don't fall their way. Mike and Brent were gracious enough to acknowledge the role that good weather played in their success. I think they would have been fine even if the weather had not been good. But you got to have an element of luck. And me personally, I can tell you that I didn't succeed every year I sat out on the tour. A few times that was my fault. I made mistakes. But in other times, it was just, you get somewhere and there's a fire that crops up in front of you or the weather turns brutal. Poor Brett Asper one year got up on day 8. What's now day 8. It was day 7, I think, the first time he tried it. And it snowed like 3 inches on him. Temperature dropped. It started snowing. All of a sudden, he's in a survival situation. The last thing he's worried about anymore is a tour of Idaho. The Stafford brothers had the same thing happen. They were coming up Sherman Creek a couple of years ago, started getting that really cold rain that can fall up there this time of year. And they managed to pull it out, but they have a very entertaining photo with the very nice gentleman that they met wearing red jumpsuits that turned out to be a prison chain gang. By the way, Aaron Stafford, for those of you who don't know, who don't follow the Stafford brothers on social media, Facebook and Instagram, Aaron took a tree limb right through the bicep the other day on Sunday. So best wishes to you, Aaron. I hope you recover quickly. I know it doesn't hurt because that's a weird kind of an injury. Torn biceps and stuff don't hurt that much, but it's a serious injury. And all of us, I'm sure I speak on behalf of everybody, we wish you the best of a speedy recovery. And then finally, here's a good one. Have fun. There you go. All right. I'm going to sign off here in a few minutes. I'll leave it open for a few more minutes in case anybody has any questions, but let me give you a little preview of coming attractions. I'm going to continue to do the daily briefs all through tour season until the last team is done, one way or the other. PBR Mondays, I'm probably going to run up until I may go slightly into September with these a little bit, but I need to take a break. I've got some things that I got to square away here at home. So probably most of the month of September, there may not be a PBR Monday, or if it is, I may record it and just upload it. But September is going to be an eventful month for me. What I am going to do, however, this winter is, after having talked to all the people that really spent all winter engaged in this, I'm going to, we're going to do what's called PBR Monday Hot Stove League over the winter. So probably starting sometime in October, November, the latest, I'm going to do these things again. They'll be live, just like this one is, so that we can all interact. And I'll give you tidbits about what to expect for 2021. For those of you who are listening right now, day 2 is going to change pretty significantly for 2021. I don't know where else I'm going to make changes yet. The trend towards more bonus sections is going to continue. And this ain't going to happen in 2021, but looking down the road a few years, the only way I can get all of the good trails that I've uncovered in Idaho and put them on the tour would be to make the tour 20 days long. And I don't want to do that. 10 days is already enough. So what I'm going to do instead, I think, looking down the road is give you optional routes. They may not be worth the same number of points, but you might be able to choose an entirely different path for an entire day. And we'll just say, look, you can do this and it's worth this many challenge points, or you can do this one over here that's worth this many challenge points. And you get to sort of, there may be one or more days where the entire day you could pick an alternative route north. And that way, people that are coming back that have done a tour before, I want to keep it fresh every year. So I want to give people that come back, like Jeff Jensen's coming back this year, Hillbilly's coming back this year. I want them to be able to experience something new and something fresh. You do a rock climb. I had a few rock climbs that were favorites that I could do over and over just because they were so much fun and I liked it. But for the most part, I kind of lost interest in like the big long routes after I'd done them once. You do a great big long route on El Cap, or you go up to Alaska and do one of those big alpine walls. The amount of suffering involved is sufficient enough that once you've done it once, you're not actually that eager to go back and do the exact same thing again because you kind of know what's there. But if there's another mountain in the same region or another line on that same wall that's equally good, yeah, I'm interested in that. So I want to keep the tour the same way. I want to give those of you that want to keep coming back and participating in the tour over and over an opportunity to find fresh things every year and learn more about Idaho, which is the trail riding paradise of the entire universe. Robert, I addressed this just a little bit earlier, but let me go through it again. Right now, there are no fire concerns, Robert. Now, there could be any day. I thought earlier that there might be one, the Muldoon fire, but it looks like that's not going to interfere with the tour route. Right now, no fire concerns, but all of you who live in this area know what the bottom line is. It's August. It's dry. The best thing that could possibly happen is that this ridge of high pressure, which is keeping everything hot, stays in place for a while because that's what's blocking the monsoonal flow that feeds those pop-up thunderstorms, which are typically dry. You get lightning strikes and half of Idaho burns down. All right, I'm going to wrap it up tonight. I really got to get to bed. Daily brief tomorrow. Best of luck to the teams that are starting out tomorrow. We have Way Up North is starting out, and I posted their thread on the Facebook page. And then I don't know about William Buckingham. I got a PR from him while I was making the long haul to Priest River and back, and I guess he's having some truck trouble. He was down in Nevada somewhere trying to make sure he could get his truck up here. Well, anyway, thank you once again. Thanks for spending 40 minutes. Congratulations to Idaho. It's already in the forum. Their jersey numbers are entered there. And if I were a guessing man, I'd say in about 48 hours, you're going to see another team at Sundance. Glitter Gulch 2 has just passed the last significant hurdle to getting through day 8. So as long as something untoward doesn't happen to them, they're going to be finishers, it looks like, as well. So daily brief tomorrow. Once again, thanks, everybody. I see there were a ton of people out there watching. You have no idea how great it feels to know that there's an entire community that digs this as much as I and the other finishers do. So I'll be seeing all of you. Take care of yourselves.